Hi everyone, my name is Linda Sunderland and I get to tell you about the 85th anniversary celebration that we're just wrapping up this month. And it has been quite a year as we thought back to the way things were in 1940 when the Peterborough Field Naturalists first started. And we started our year with our wonderful January celebration at the Canadian Canoe Museum, and it was a packed house. And I think for many people it was the first time they'd been in the museum. It was great to introduce people to it, but also to start the year celebrating the Peterborough Field Naturalists. There was a committee that organized everything that happened this year for the 85th anniversary year, and our top priority was to continue getting advice from the strategic plan that we developed 2 years ago and focusing on our community and developing a community that appreciates the value of a healthy natural environment and inspires a love of nature. So we wanted to have things throughout the year that would grow on that. We also wanted to bring attention to the history of the Peterborough Field Naturalists. So our slogan for the year was bringing you closer to nature since 1940. We introduced some older events that had happened in the past but had just been dropped for one reason or another. We reintroduced the Little Lake waterfowl viewing in March, and that was a great success, even though it was just an abysmal day. We had many people, members, but also the community of Peterborough, because we'd advertised it broadly throughout Peterborough. And we're hoping to do that again in March, because it was really fun, and I think it let people see how we have such wonderful birding right here in Peterborough. We held our AGM back at the Canoe Museum because we'd had such a great time there in January. And then in March, we held an outing and a picnic at Burnham Woods, which is a great place and with a lot of history for the Peterborough Field Naturalists. And we also had celebrated our actual anniversary day there with a cake and lots of people enjoying a picnic. We also brought back the Dawn Chorus, and we have a student here today who's exploring our old data from the Dawn Chorus, and that's again something that we hope to continue to do moving forward. And then we wrapped up the year with our fall picnic at Tekasi Ranch. We had 75 members come to that excellent day. We did outings and just enjoyed that beautiful location. We've formed a really strong partnership with Tekasi and hope that maybe that's something that could be another annual event. I want to thank the committee. We started meeting in November of 2024 to start planning for these events. I want to thank Sue Paradises and Martin Parker and Lou, who's not here, Lou Smirlis, and Kathy Garvey, who's over here, and me. We worked together, and Martin and Lou worked very closely together because Martin holds so much of the history in his heart and that he was wanting to bring forward, and Lou has such a great way to work with social media and with writing that I think I learned so much reading what he wrote over the course of the year, and the latest thing he did on women in the Peterborough Field Naturalists was wonderful. I encourage you all to look at that. So I hope you have enjoyed our 85th anniversary year, and we're going to wrap it up, of course, tonight with some of you doing a presentation for the rest of us. So thank you for participating in the event and for supporting us as we move forward. Thanks a lot.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our holiday presentation meeting tonight. First off, I really want to thank everybody that volunteered to do a presentation for us. It was very overwhelming. I had to turn away about 4 to 5 people, so I mean, potentially we could have done another one for the next month. So thank you all for stepping up and filling the slots for us, because it's not an easy thing to do if you've put together a presentation for the club. Again, so I'd just like to thank everyone today again. And tonight we're lucky enough to have 5 presenters. We're trying to keep it on a really tight schedule because of, well, we only have about an hour or so to present. So anyways, with that, we have asked them to keep it to a certain limit. You can ask questions afterwards if you'd like. And with that, we're going to do our first introduction here, who is for Shaelagh Kirkey. Shaelagh is another presenter in the evening tonight, and she is a Trent University conservation biology student who is in her final years in undergraduate studies. Shaelagh is a lover of all nature, but has a particular interest in birds and herbs, which definitely reflects in her photographs. She's new to photography and is fighting and still figuring out her camera, but she feels that it's important to show off the some not so polished pictures as well. After all, as she says, everyone has to start somewhere. Shaelagh?
Yes, my name is Shaelagh Kirkey, and I'm so happy to be here and be a new face among all of you, and I'm excited to get to know you. I decided to call this presentation Life Through My Lens. I might reuse that name and get some more photos, as I do love my camera and practicing with it. So this is specifically nature of Slovenia, which is a small country in Europe right beside Italy. So biased to the birds, of course, but also some of this beautiful scenery when we had these wonderful autumn foliage coming through, and some of the buildings and architecture that really were a gorgeous backdrop that really looked lovely with the nature surrounding it. To start off, I would also like to say I'm really interested in phylogeny and how species are related. So this little guy looks similar to our little chickadees around here, and it shocked me just how similar they behaved. This is a blue tit, and they were all over the place, and like our chickadees, they were a bit tricky to photograph because they would bop around the branches, making it really hard. Once you finally got it in focus, it was suddenly staring at you from a branch over here rather than where your focus was over here. So when I finally got a photo of this little guy perched and framed by these two branches, I was really excited. I was so looking forward to seeing these, and I had a little checklist for every single tit species I was seeing, just because I love the chickadees here, and seeing their energy mirrored in those species over there was amazing. This guy over here was actually pointed out to me by my boyfriend, who had a bit of an explicitive when he saw this one flying across. That's a massive bird! And he didn't quite know what it was, but he actually ID'd it just through guessing. This is a Eurasian jay, and like our blue jays here, they have blue feathers that are actually not blue, it's just a trick of the light. So they were really neat to look at. They were much bigger than our jays, closer in size to a crow. But they are in the corvid family, so they are related in that way. So again, with finding the family ties between what we have here and what's over there, it is really neat to see how much behavior is similar between them as well. And like the corvids here, they were super curious and actually posed and watched us as we watched them. And it was really interesting to hear the camera click, and it moved a bit every time, trying to see what was making the noise. Another tit, this one is a great tit. They are really interesting as well to look at. Similar to our chickadees, they're a little hard to photograph. You can see with the eye there, they're hidden in the black cap. But they were really neat as well because they had a call that sounded similar to our chickadee, to the point where I was getting a little confused because I have never birded anywhere outside of Ontario. So seeing these species and seeing all the similarities did make me feel a little more at home. And having trouble getting photos and getting them in focus really made me feel like I was taking photos of our chickadees here as well. These ones will no doubt be familiar to us here, and much to Martin's chagrin, because he seems to have a bit of an enemy with these ones. These are some mute swans with their young, and they were pretty common around the areas where they were populated in the lakes, because they are seen as a beautiful ornamental species. So seeing them there with their babies and being healthy was really sweet because they are more common there and not as invasive as they are here. This one was one of my favorites to see. This is a common chaffinch, and they were really like our house finches here, where they're super energetic, bopping around on the ground as they forage for insects. And they were fun to see, but they were also really hard to photograph, not because they didn't pose and stay still, but because they really liked the higher mountainy areas. So I was really out of breath climbing, and learning the camera and holding it still was a bit of a challenge. But luckily, they seemed interested in us, and just standing there with my camera was enough to get them curious. So they let me catch my breath as I took photos of them. This one might have a similar body shape to some of the birds around here we're used to. This is a Eurasian blackbird, and I was surprised to learn that this one is actually more closely related to the American robin. So you can see that in the body shape really clearly. And a fun fact is the European robin is not related to our robin at all. But our robin here is named after their species of robin just because of how similar they look and how much people migrating over were reminded of that species. No doubt this one is familiar, but when you're on vacation, anything is interesting to see, so I figured I'd take some photos and give this one the spotlight it deserves. This one was really friendly, being fed by a lot of people visiting Lake Bled, where I took the photo. So it allowed me to get pretty close and get some practice in with using the camera, and I think it's worth highlighting that species that we see every day are really worth photographing, especially when they're used to people, because you get some wonderful practice in, and mallards deserve more appreciation. They really are a beautiful duck. Another species that we see around here that is not native here, but is native in Europe, is the house finch. And this is another species I think we deserve to look a little closer at with that beautiful russet red coloration. They were again a number of friendly species, oftentimes snagging food off of people's abandoned plates at restaurants, which is fun to see. But it was a new appreciation I got for these guys, seeing them in their native habitat. This one here was really impressive. I think the tree is super picturesque as well. This is a very famous tree. You see them in a lot of pictures. It's a English oak, and they have that beautiful gnarled appearance with lots of holes in it, which make great habitats for little guys like this Eurasian nuthatch, which is in the Sitta genus, which is the same genus as our nuthatches around here. So I was excited to see, again, a familiar face in a place I'd never been to. Made me feel a little more at home seeing similar to our red-breasted and white-breasted nuthatches. This little guy I was probably the most excited to see, despite his unassuming appearance. His white bib is rather flashy, but he has a bit of a superpower. This is a white-throated dipper, and I was most familiar through my lectures and never thought I'd get the chance to see one, let alone so soon. But these guys are passerines, so they're related to the perching birds, but they swim. They're very talented swimmers, so they spend a lot of time underwater going and hunting for bugs under rocks. And they actually have some very unique adaptations with their feathers that allow them to swim better. So they use their arms like paddles, or wings like paddles, sorry. Finally, we deviate from the birds for just a moment. This right here is a fire salamander, and there's some interesting lore to that name. It's not because of their bright colors that they're called a fire salamander, but these little guys like hiding under rocks. So oftentimes when people were collecting rocks for fires, they would put the fireplace together and light the fire, and as the fire scared these little guys out, the people thought that they had created the salamanders from the fire. Another thing I like about this photo is you can really see those little black dots behind the head right here and along the back and tail. These black dots are actually glands that create a neurotoxin. So whenever something attacks it, it'll spit it out really quick. It tastes nasty and it will make the animal extremely sick. So not something you want to pick up and stick in your mouth. The coloration is a good thing that helps animals see that that is not something they want to eat, and they'll definitely remember that bright yellow "don't eat me" sign next time they see it in the woods. This guy here is a black redstart, and I actually took this photo in a children's play park at the base of the slide where the puddle had been carved out. So it was really sweet to see this guy bathing, sharing the puddle with, down here you can see what is a very, very blurry house finch that gave us the picturesque splash in the foreground. But it was very sweet to see them fluffed up, enjoying the company, and living so closely to humans. Something interesting about Slovenia is they are ranked the #1 country in Europe for human and nature cohabitants. So they're really proud of themselves for being the most sustainable, and they really do have those little pockets of nature no matter where you go. This one here is familiar in face. Corvus is the same genus as our crow and raven here. This is a hooded crow. And these guys were very common, but they were still fun to see because all of the corvids have their super playful personalities. So you could often see these guys jumping over each other and playing in parks. I like this shot because it emphasizes that Halloween energy. This was taken around Halloween, a little beforehand. So you get that wonderful autumn background and then the roof with the crow in the foreground that looks like something straight out of a postcard, I think. They were posing for us and very curious like the other corvids, so it was easier to get photos of them in practice, but it is tough to get that little eye in focus. Thank you so much for listening. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Yes?
I was just wondering, what type of camera are you using for your...
I'm using a Nikon D600? D5300, thank you. Yes?
The jay that was at the start of your presentation,
Yes.
Was it molting? Do you know? It almost seemed like it had a bald head.
I actually looked that up. They just seem to have a very flat top of their head there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because we thought it was supposed to have a crest as well. We're so used to seeing the jays with our crests over here. We did look it up. We thought it was an injury at first, but no, they actually just have a very flat head.
They have a black and white crest, and that one looks like it may have lost feathers. But typically they'll have a black and white crest. They can partially raise, but is often held flat.
Shaelagh, you said that one's the size of a crow?
Closer to the size of a crow. It's in between a jay and a crow. So they were much bigger than I was expecting them to be. So a little scary when you see it flying at you in the woods.
Which doesn't do it justice on
Oh yeah.
this picture.
Yeah, they're quite big.
Any more questions?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Just a quick remark. We will be having back in April to give a presentation on the research that she's doing with the data from the Dawn Course. We'll be hearing all about what she's digitizing all of the paper records, and then we'll take a look at the data.
Okay, thank you. That was very interesting. Our next presenter is Ken McKeen. Ken is originally from London, Ontario. He worked in GE in Peterborough here for over 36 years, designing 1,000 to 30,000 HP motors and also megawatt to 550 megawatt hydro generators that are located in dams throughout the world. He started his birding by teaching his grandchildren bird songs from books with recorded bird songs. He enhanced his birding as he attributed it to everyone's help here at the Peterborough Field Naturalist, and for that he would like to thank all. Ken?
As Steve Patterson of the Debaters might say, I was going to wing this presentation, but I thought you might take flight. And didn't want any egrets, and I wanted you to be raving about the presentation. So I actually wrote a few words down. Okay. My wife and I were really fortunate this year. We got to do 2 trips with Kathy and Martin Parker. The first one early in the bird season, way down south in Canada, that Pelee Island. And the second one at the end of birding season, way up north in Moosonee. So when I was in Moosonee, Kathy Parker said I should do a presentation. So I'm doing this presentation in honor of Kathy and all the trips that she took birders on and made informative, fun, and run efficiently. So when we were in Pelee Island, we stayed at the Wandering Dog, and the hosts the owners, they're really great, really nice people, and the food is fantastic. And the other day I was on their Facebook page, and it was hard to believe what I read, but it said that Martin and Kathy had taken birders down to Pelee Island for over 38 years. So that's quite an accomplishment. So this is a ringneck pheasant that I caught out in the field. I didn't catch it, took a picture of it out in the field.
Trained it to sit.
We saw many, many birds in Pelee Island. They had a number of purple martin houses. And the close-up of the purple martins. You don't get to see too many of them anymore. They're becoming distinct around here. As you can see, I do have a great egret. There was a ditch, and there were quite a few along the ditch. And there were all kinds of warblers, and this guy popped out on the sand. We were near Fish Point, and he said, "Take my picture, take my picture." So I got a picture of a palm warbler. Sometimes you're really, really lucky. You got to be at the right place at the right time. And I think it was one of Martin's friends that came running down the road to call Martin. And so we hurried down the road. I knew there must be something great, and painted bunting was along the side of the road. And he was very cooperative.
Wow.
He stayed along the side of the road for about 5 minutes, and we could get some really good pictures. This one's a little blurry, but you can see the color on the side. And when you look at this, you just wonder, like, how's a bird like this, so beautiful, and it is painted. And I think it was only the 4th time that they had been seen in Essex County. And they're supposed to be in South Carolina, so he's a little bit out of his range. Now sometimes, as you said, it's really hard to get pictures. They say, "There's the bird over there in that tree." Okay, what tree? Oh, sorry. If you can get your binoculars on it, or if you can get your camera on it. So this is my frustration picture of indigo buntings. Okay, and there was one river where there were Blanding's turtles, and this guy wanted to be camouflaged. Blanding's turtles become sexually mature at about 15 years of age, but they can lay eggs into their 8th and 9th decade. And one thing about a Blanding's turtle is it never shows any sign of aging. Of course, one of my favorite birds, ever since I saw one on a hydro line when I was a young fella, a bluebird. And I don't get to see these guys very often around here, but we saw about 4 of them on that trip. One at the feeder and the others in the woods. And of course, the bald eagle, very majestic bird. He was just overhead. So the Moodie trip is more than just a birding trip. It's to look at the landscape and understand the culture of the indigenous people. The drive up to Cochrane is a long drive, but it's really interesting. I didn't know there were so many farms along the way, especially north of North Bay. And then there's a huge Mennonite community around Kirkland Lake, and they have their farms, and we saw the buggies and horses on the side of the road. So it was really interesting. I really enjoyed the drive up. Now the train ride, you have to go from Cochrane to Moosonee. The only way you get there is in the train ride, and that wasn't so great for me because I just saw trees just out the window all the time. This one's a little blurry, but every birding trip has to go to a lagoon, so we went to a lagoon, and there was a solitary sandpiper in the lagoon. And we were up at Shipsand Island, and there were a number of horned larks passing through. And there were a lot of American pipits or water pipits. They were all along the shore. And this is a greater yellow legs, which just happened to be close by. We didn't get to see the cliff swallows, but their nest was on the side of our hotel. So that was pretty neat to see. Very distinctive nest. One of Kathy's favorite sightings is Whiskers. And I guess he was there every year they went up, and he was along the shore on Moose Factory Island. And he was there again. It looks like he has a few scratch marks along the side. So, but it was good to see him. And he's a harbor seal, I believe.
Bearded.
Hmm?
Bearded.
Bearded seal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big boy.
And it was very beautiful up there on the Moose River. We're over on the Moose and east side looking towards Moose Factory. Very quiet and peaceful. On Moose Factory, they have a Hudson Bay post or store, and they've kept it in good shape, and this is what it looks like on the inside. It was one of the main Hudson Bay stores in Ontario or even in Canada. And the person that looked after the Hudson Bay post was called a factor, so that's why it's called Moose Factory Island. Now this one isn't about the bear, really. I sort of walked on the site with everyone else and just hit me that, wow, the Indigenous people have got all our new technology. You know, they got motors so they can motor fast with their boats. They've got trucks and four-wheelers, so when the ice freezes, they can zoom across the river and on the ice road, and they can haul stuff. And then they've got helicopters in the in-between stage to go from the island to the mainland. And they've got internet, and they've got cell phones, and they've got the train coming up, which brings supplies, you know, food, but food's not cheap. But they also have problems like this. This is on Moose Factory Island, and it's a fairly large garbage dump. And how do you get rid of this? You know, like, you have to take it over to the mainland and take it down to Cochrane on the train. So we've given them some pluses and minuses. And this is my wife standing on Shipsand Island, and we're looking out towards James Bay. Always wanted to go to James Bay. You know, you hear about it in history class when you're in public school, and there it is out there. Just really nice day. And the group of us were having lunch on Shipsand Island. This was near the end of September, and we landed there, and all these mosquitoes came all over us. I figured, well, the end of September, who's going to have mosquitoes? But there were like 100 on everybody. They weren't biting, and then within half an hour, they were all gone. The sun came out, and maybe just a touch of wind, and they took off. Now, Shipsand Island doesn't have many birds that live on it, but it's a protected area because all the migrating birds land there. So. And this is our group. We had lunch. The two people at the back, the two Indigenous people, the lady made us some moose soup and bannock. And the her husband beside her, he was in charge of taking us around in the boats and organizing things. So 2 great trips. Thank you.
Thanks again, Ken. Our next presenter is Sharon Hill. Sharon is rather recent to Peterborough. She moved here almost 4 years ago, and she joined the Peterborough Field Naturalists just a few months later, as she was knowing very little as a field naturalist. She says that she's quick to admit that she'll always be a beginner among so many accomplished and knowledgeable members of the PFN. Not me, Sharon, so you're fine with that. And she just wanted to mention just how much she appreciates the many members who share their expertise, as she has learned so much. It should also be mentioned that the PFN is grateful to Sharon as well for the hard work that she gives back to us each month when she helps get those orchids out the door into your door. We're very thankful of her participation also tonight. Thanks, Sharon.
So just very briefly, we were in England in June and went to the Eden Project, which I've subsequently discovered many people don't know what it is, and that's fine, because you're going to learn a little bit here. Just by way of a little bit of background, a fellow named Tim Smits, who had been, he had a music background, but he had just finished working on restoring some lost gardens that had been lost in Cornwall, and was coming to the end of that project and wanted to find, southern Cornwall has a lot of clay, China clay quarries that have basically become defunct, not all of them, but most of them. And so he wanted to find a quarry and restore it to, its verdant original state. And so I won't say too much more because I'm hoping this will just kind of be self-explanatory. Yeah, so we'll just take it from there. He did write there are a couple of books, which if you want to have a look at, this is a book he wrote explaining the whole history of the development from the early 90s when it was just, an inkling in the back of his mind to 2001 when it actually opened. And then here's a copy of the guide, so if afterwards you want to have a quick look, you're more than welcome. So it's going to be more or less pretty self-explanatory, and I hope your only 2 takeaways are, number one, just have a bit of a taste of what the Eden Project is all about, and secondly, a bunch of fun facts, because that's kind of what it is. So I'll just let it do its thing. So this is where it's located in Cornwall. So really the project developed over the years through the consultations and the fundraising and the government input and the community consultations they did. So we're going to focus on the things that are underlined. Okay, so just very briefly, you kind of come in here, there's a visitor center, and you kind of go down all these stairs, and then you go into the thing, then you can either go into a biodome or a biome that's focused on the rainforest, the Mediterranean, and then there's another one called the core. Can you see it okay? So water became a huge issue for them, of course. So that's one of the biomes. It's sort of fashioned after the idea of a bubbles. Holding it up, those are some of the outdoor gardens where some of the medicinal plants and things were. That's a stage where they do performances. So sculpture and the arts is also a big part of the whole project. This is the entranceway. So of course they imported all of these plants and created about 83,000 tons of soil for each, to adapt to each of the kinds of. So one of the things that you try and focus on is the crops and the economic impacts of certain things, and of course the rainforest is a big. This was worth the whole trip to England, honestly. Like you can see you can see how tall it is. I don't know if you read it, but the rings are represent oxygen. You can see how big it is compared to the people. It just blew my mind. I don't know if you saw too, they may in another decade or so, they may take this and put it into the ocean so it can become a reef habitat for marine forms, and that's all she wrote.
I have a question. Did they have any before pictures of what it looked like before they started this construction? Like it was an empty quarry.
Yes, it was just a big empty clay quarry. And they moved like tons, thousands and thousands of tons of soil here and there, and they, moved it around, and they had to dig down like, I find this hard to believe, but a 4-kilometer well or something, so that they get the heat to, heat the water and stuff. And so they've done a huge amount of work to really, and they're working towards being 100%, climate positive. I think it is by 2030 or so. But yeah, it was just a.
And it was full of water in the beginning too.
It wasn't totally full of water, but that one shot showed that when it really, really rains, it became evident it was something that had to be taken care of. Yeah.
So did you stay, was it a place that you could see in a day?
Yes, but I mean, this was just a smattering, right? There's so much there, just so much. And I mean, none of our photos came out terribly well, but there's like wonderful flowers as well, right? Which I know most of you would have loved to see. Not so many, not birds in the biomes, but there would have been birds around, and but yeah, it's mostly this was just a taste of it. There's so much. So yeah, we spent much of a day there, but you could easily go more than one day. Yeah.
Our next presenter is Terry Moodie. He's a retired elementary teacher who has lived in Peterborough since the 80s when he studied environmental and geography at Trent University. Terry spends much of his time from mid-May to mid-October at his trailer on the shores of Westlake, right across from the sand dunes of the Sandbanks Provincial Park. A keen nature lover, Terry thoroughly enjoys hiking, kayaking, and canoeing, and is always on the lookout for nature shots, which he captures with his iPhone. Terry has a particular fondness for pollinators, which he's excited to share with us tonight, along with some photos of a very elusive mammal that he and his friend Mark encountered. He'll also be showing some photos of his owl banding sessions, along with his adoptive owl family, Farley and Mowat. Please help me welcome Terry Moodie.
Yes, as my wife can attest, I don't go far without taking my iPhone 16 Pro. I find the photos are quite impressive. I wanted to take you through I guess a journey through my lens through the seasons, and although I don't have many winter ones, I did take this picture back last, I guess it was January or February, but I just thought the sumacs were just gorgeous. Many of you will recognize these little friends up at the Tanny Cabin up at Kawartha Nordic. That's always my destination because they are so friendly, and they come out to greet you. Sometimes they get up a little too close and personal, but that was my doing. Very cooperative. I just love them. And you can see just the wingspan is just amazing. So you can't help but smile. They're just gorgeous. But now I'm going to take you, I made winter quite short. So I'm going to take you to Prince Edward County right now. And two locations. Well, there are a few photos that take place in Wellington, but my wife and I have shared a beautiful lakeside seasonal trailer on Westlake, which is right beside Sandbanks Provincial Park. We're like 200 meters from the park boundary. So it's not only a birder's paradise, it's a nature lover's paradise. And I'm also going to take you out here on the Lawn Point Road to the Prince Edward Point Bird Observatory. And I have a few stories to tell you. I'm a geographer, so I had to include a map. All right, so Sandbanks Provincial Park. This is Westlake. I took this picture from my kayak, and on a very calm morning, this is what we would look out across at. Westlake, as Onda and would remember, it's not always this calm. The wind can pick up quite quickly. Obviously, Sandbanks Provincial Park is known for its humongous dunes. It's the largest, I want to get this straight, it's the world's largest bay mouth dune system in the world. And I'm always thrilled to take visitors across and challenge them to climb the highest dune, which we call Third Point. On the Lake Ontario shoreline, there is the Lakeshore Beach. There are 3 beaches at Sandbanks Provincial Park. The one closest to us is called Dunes Beach, and then there's Outlet Beach, which is in the shape of a horseshoe. And then there's this one, which is called the Lakeshore Beach. And when you continue to walk up, you can sort of see the water tower in the top right-hand corner. That would be the Wellington water tower. So as you walk west, you eventually run out of sand and you get into more pebbles and more stones. But you can see already a lot of zebra mussels and erosion. I'm always playing with my phone and my camera, and it's incredible. Just some of the scenes that I come across on my morning hikes. Tracks, and more tracks. So I'm not sure, is Dawn in here in the audience tonight? No, shucks. Okay, I came across that one, the one in the middle, and it just looks like a perfectly shaped heart. But I believe it might belong to a deer. Am I right? Okay, good. All kinds of neat shifting sand patterns. The other neat thing is that quite often after a storm surge, the water will just naturally throw up these stones into little crevices in driftwood or old stumps. The giant swallowtail, black swallowtail. The swans are doing very well, as most invasive species do. They really love the Wellington Harbor, but anyhow, they do look elegant for an invasive species. We have, of course, lots of turkey vultures, and this, I know it's not a very pretty picture, but I was amazed at how cleanly it had been picked clean. And I believe it's, what did I say that was? Oh, a cormorant. We discovered a lot of cormorant carcasses on the beach this summer. And apparently what had happened, from what I understand through the park's naturalist, when I inquired, there was a sudden temperature change, and it caused these small little, I'm going to call them whitefish, but I'm probably incorrect, to die off. And there were hundreds, if not thousands, of these little fish all along that shoreline. Cormorants, of course, came along and ate them, and we believe that they ended up dying through botulism. So that was one of them. All kinds of wildlife, family of turkey vultures waiting. You birders will have to help me out on that one. Any ideas? I thought maybe some type of a plover, but it's not the clearest, and I do apologize, but he was fast. It's incredible how many of these helium balloons I find on the shoreline. One summer I kept track, I collected 44 of these helium balloons with great big long ribbons attached. So I'm happy in that each summer since that high of 44, the numbers have been going down. Maybe somebody else is ahead of me collecting them as well, but I can't walk by without picking them up. All kinds of really cool driftwood. I love seeing patterns in driftwood. This particular piece here is what I used to call the bull's head. I'm not sure if you can visualize that like I can. But anyhow, that lasted for quite a few years, and then one winter it succumbed to storm damage. So it's finished. The majority of it is finished. But that was so smooth, incredibly smooth. Again, more, you can see here, I'm on the rockier part of the beach. And again, the storm surge not only pushes sand into the crevices of some of these pieces of large driftwood or stumps, but also very smooth rocks. I think they speak for themselves. This one is so artistically done. I don't know. I think of a sea serpent coming up out of the ground, or it just beached itself. But I'm just amazed by nature. A couple more there. So these photos were taken at our trailer, and finally I was able to coax, and you can see what I coaxed the Baltimore Oriole down from the treetops with. But I could hear him before I saw him, and sure enough, he came down for the orange and the grape jelly. And this fellow, I was so amazed when I first spotted it, and that was about the only shot I could get of it. But it's called, from what I understand, a hummingbird moth? Is that what it had?
Clearwing.
Sorry?
Clearwing, hummingbird.
Yes, okay. Clearwing hummingbird. Yeah. Just, I had never, before it visited our garden, I had never realized that one of those existed. So I was quite happy with that. This summer, not as many, this past summer, I didn't notice as many monarch butterflies, which sort of saddened me. You can tell, of course, that that's a male with the two black dots. I believe this is the same. This is the same butterfly. A giant yellow swallowtail, and this one here, I'm not sure. Thank you. I normally don't like big flies, but anyhow, I had to admit that I admired that one with the green eyes and the green head, and then some sort of a dragonfly which was posing quite nicely while I got down on my hands and knees.
Does anyone know what species that one was?
Oh.
The dragonfly?
Halloween pat.
Halloween.
Helen.
Halloween pat.
Oh, okay. Good to know. I took part in a monarch tagging session at the park that was led by the park naturalist. That was one of the ones we released. Again, a couple of neat monarch caterpillars. Again, I didn't see too many of them this summer. This photo was taken the previous summer. I think the drought had something to do with it. Lots of reintroduced turkeys, wild turkeys, white-tailed deer. But there's also lots of plant life. There you can see a chrysalis. I thought that was an impressive fungi. And a lot of people don't realize, you think of Sandbanks Provincial Park, you're thinking beaches, you're thinking sand dunes, but there's a beautiful trail called the Lakeshore Trail. And that's where I took this photo. Big, massive, deciduous forest. It's amazing how it changes through the seasons. Another one. I love bees. I used to raise bees with a friend of mine until after 2 years of doing it, I discovered that I had a fairly severe allergic reaction to them. So I had to retire from that hobby, but I can still take pictures, and I've never found an unfriendly bumblebee. So I feel safe with these guys. But I just love them. There they are on some asters. But not just bees appreciate the asters. I'm not. Yeah, kind of a neat spider, all yellow. And then this is Wellington. It's not a clear shot, this one, but from what I can understand, it's an ermine. And there's a better photo of it. So this little guy, we were on the docks in Wellington. We were actually watching the fishermen bring in a large fish, and down scurrying amongst the rocks was this ermine. So obviously I think that was in August. So this little guy, if he's still around, he'd be all white. It's called Westlake for a reason. It faces towards the west, well, at least our area does. And the sky changes every day and every night. It's something different. It's a beautiful spot. So now I'm going to take you east of Sandbanks Provincial Park to the Prince Edward Point Bird Observatory. I'm sure many of you have been there. It's about a 2.5-hour drive from Peterborough. And this is Farley and Mowat. So my friend Mark and his wife Brenda and my wife Shauna and I, we adopted 2 of these cute little guys. We were there on a rather chilly November evening, and what they do is they set up nets, very fine mesh nets, and then they call. They have some sort of a sound system that calls the owls in. And so on that particular night, they netted 7 saw-whet owls, and of course each one was up for adoption. So that's Farley on the left and Mowat on the right. Yeah. And we're all, well, 3 of the 4 of us are retired teachers, so. So we learned a lot there. This is one of the volunteers. She's also, I believe, a retired teacher. Kindergarten, I believe. That's why she has the little owl suit. Quite unique. But one of the things that they do there, they just don't catch them for fun or to count them. They band them, and then they put the owls and spread their wings out underneath the black light. And that way they can determine their age based on the patterns in the feathers. So, but they're just beautiful creatures. And, so this is not a northern saw-whet, as many of you know. It's a barred owl, and I have to tell you the story. Being out on Lawn Point late at night. We left the bird observatory. We were all thrilled with adopting our 2 little saw-whets and seeing them released off into the wild. And we're driving along, and we missed the cottage that we were staying at that night. So I turned around, and when we came back, right across from the driveway was this mailbox with the barred owl sitting on top. And it was almost like it was meant to be. It was like, where did you go? This is home. Turn here, turn here. So we thought that was quite a nice nightcap for the evening. Now, 2 of the 3 don't belong. You can see my fascination with owls. On the left-hand side, that was last winter. You can buy these seeded owls at a nature store in Ottawa, and a friend sent that to me. And now I have to admit that I didn't see any birds pecking at it, but there was a very happy neighborhood squirrel that enjoyed the treat. So this is another solid owl that we helped in the banding with about a year ago. And this happened at the James McLean Oliver Ecological Center, where Trent has, I believe Trent and M&R have some agreement with that. And so anyhow, we were able to get up close and personal with these cute little owls and tag them as well. So these tagged owls are all entered into a database, and then if they're recaptured at another center, it's entered, and it helps scientists keep track of their whereabouts and their migrations. So now I want to take you up a little further northeast to Algonquin Park, Lake Travers, just outside of Pembroke. Well, we had breakfast in Pembroke and then went into the park, canoed in. This would be the first weekend in October. You can tell I'm wearing a t-shirt, so it was a beautiful weekend, except that night it did drop down to close to 0. And I thought, oh, are we going to survive? But we did. Beautiful scenery in the fall. What I love about the fall going canoeing and camping is that there aren't as many people in the park. It's a little quieter. The colors, although not as vibrant this past October as they were in the previous year, some areas were just stunning. And so Mark and I were canoeing down to the end of Lake Travers, and we came upon some rapids, and we decided to pull over and walk along the portage route. And as we were walking along the portage trail, I saw to the right of me a red blur, and it was traveling at a great speed. And I said to Mark, "Oh my gosh, there's a red fox." And I could also hear the squeal of a red squirrel. And I thought, wait a minute, something's not right here. Anyhow, within seconds, all of a sudden, this appears in front of us. And it was even closer than that. It was probably on this side of the tree. And we stared at it, and it stared back at us. And we were just like, it was almost like time stopped for a second or two. And then he scurried around and ran in behind, and then scampered on up into the tall tree, and an American pine marten it was. And we were so amazed that we had that encounter. So we were quite pleased with that. And I remember telling the park employees at the gatehouse when we were leaving about our discovery. I was showing them our pictures, and neither of them had ever seen one before. So apparently they're quite elusive.
Was that got a quill in it?
Sorry?
Was there a quill in this case?
A quill? No, I think that's just a tree.
I think it's just the branch.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just the branch. But I'm not sure if you can tell, but you can see how sharp their claws are. So then that made us think, when time stopped and we were staring at each other, I think he was sizing us up, like, I could probably take you two. So I'm glad he chose the tree. Anyhow, just a beautiful animal, just beautiful. So we felt very privileged to have witnessed that. And, oh, sorry. Thank you. Doug Ford asked me to include that. No charge.
Our final presenter of the evening is Culin. and she's a relatively new member with the Peterborough Field Naturalists as well. She is also instrumental to the success of our PFN juniors through the leadership and passion that she does, helping membership children learn from nature. Haley also teaches with a local school board and works as an outdoor educator with Sun School. Haley also co-leads a local branch of the Canadian Conservation Corps supporting young adults in conservation and citizen science. Her love of birding grew during an internship at the Wild Bird Rehabilitation Center in Quebec, where she got to work closely with loons. An avid paddler and backcountry adventurer, Haley spends much of her time exploring the great outdoors. Haley?
Hello, my name is Haley Culin, and I thought that this was a great time to introduce myself to all of you as I'm taking over leading the juniors group from the wonderful Jennifer Lenny. And I've kind of cheated a little and stuck in some photos from previous years because I feel like a lot of my really great experiences happened a couple years ago, especially working with loons. So part of the Canadian Conservation Corps program allowed me to go away on a sea kayaking adventure, and then I did a 3-month internship at the Wild Bird Rehabilitation Center, working very closely with loons. This is my favorite part. And then after that, I was just exploring and joining the PFN. So yeah. This is one of my favorite pictures from Emily Provincial Park. Snapped that one. You can really tell, especially by how I'm dressed, I really like seeing mushrooms and fungi. So anytime I go for a walk, it could take 10 to 15 minutes, but I'm always out for an hour. There's some more mushrooms again. I really like this one where you can see the pores really up close. And similarly, I just use my iPhone for all of my photos. More mushrooms. I really like these golden scaly caps. They're like kind of like prickly looking, which was really neat. So this was part of, and you can see on the screen, I don't want to go too far with my leash here, but we started just under Mahone Bay and then went through the Atlantic Ocean and then ended up around Cape LaHave. And I also have some seal photos. They're not very good, but these ones look like they were smooching, and I just loved the photo. Very cute. As we were paddling, I kept trying to name them all, but we would see so many that I just had to give up. And these are some of the sunsets we saw. When we went out, it was 2023, and I was lucky to even get to go on this trip because there was a hurricane coming through. We were very grateful and lucky that it diverted down, but we did get the tropical storms that come in the area surrounding where the hurricane's going through. So we were affected by like really bad storms. One of the nights the guide had said that it was monsoon level, like there was puddles this big in our tents and we were just soaking wet. But on the turn side, the sunsets that we would get were so worth it. So this is totally cheating. I tell everyone that when you work at a wild bird rehabilitation center, I got to see so many really cool birds that I was adding to my eBird, and people were messaging me going, there's no way you saw that out in the wild. I'm like, no, they came in. The gadwall duck was a fan favorite of everyone working there. And this is my little guy. We named him Looney, and this is Toonie, his brother. They're not related, but they are juvenile loons. We were trying to do a Giving Tuesday promotional package, like social media post. I was like, oh guys, I got the perfect photo, so we used this loon photo. I spent my time starting off low as an intern, and I was pretty gung-ho to do most anything. I'm pretty enthusiastic about most everything in life. So I was like, sure, I'll scrape poop for 9 hours a day, and I'd scrape and scrape. And then one day they're like, oh, Haley, do you want to prepare the fish for the loons? We have to inject them with the vitamins and the medicine. I was like, that's one step up. I'm off. I still was on poop duty, but I was working my way up. I was like, yes, of course. Still cleaning out lots and lots of poop. And if you know anything about aquatic birds, they have very stinky poop because they have so much of the oils in their feces. So as time progressed, I was lucky enough, these were a staff-only bird, and as an intern, I didn't make that cut. But one day I was cleaning out the enclosure, like you can see here, but we had an outdoor one where the pools were during the warmer months, and the staff member was like, "Haley, do you want to grab the loon out of the aquatic tank?" I did not have a change of clothes. I was very naive. I was like, yeah, of course I do. So that's where the photo at the front with me holding the loon was from. It was a wonderful internship, and I have some other photos as well, like a woodcock. Those are so cool. Definitely one of my favorite birds. We had either a female, we called it a female, but it might have been a non-breeding male scarlet tanager, and a really cool blue jay. This is why I was like, I have to include some ones from previous. These were some really cool photos from the botanical garden. And this will be terrible because it's so grainy with my iPhone, but this was a moment that actually brought me to tears. I was FaceTiming my dad, crying because I was taken over by the majesty of 3,000 snow geese on their migration path. So I have a quick little video just to show you how the sky just got filled with the birds. Oh, sorry guys. Oh, I didn't realize it would do that. That would be too long, so I'm just gonna speed it up. Sorry for the terrible quality of the video, but you can see just how overcome I was. Yes?
What time of year was that?
So this is about October to November. I would recommend going a bit later. I went the next year, so this was 2023. Thank you. I could have looked here. I went back in 2024, and there was an estimated 1,000 to 2,000, so not nearly as encompassing in the sky. But I would totally recommend going. It's worth the trip just to see even that number. I was crying so much, and my dad's like, "You're all alone over there," worrying about me crying. Sorry, I skipped ahead. Skyline Trail. It's a beautiful place. Mont Tremblant. More mushrooms. Always back to the mushrooms. I always love finding orange jelly fungus. Yeah, so again with the monsoon weather, we had a big wildfire season in 2023, but it made for some nice sunsets. I think we've almost all included some chickadees or referenced them. I love feeding them. And a snapping turtle. I actually called the Ontario Turtle Conservation Centre and got to help this one to safety. Some waxwing juveniles, and then I was doing a course through an Indigenous university. I'm a teacher, so to do additional qualifications, I did an outdoor ed one, and we had to make art out of nature, so this is something that I made.
Very well done.
Thank you. I was very proud of it, so I took a picture before I let the squirrels get to it. More mushrooms. So an osprey, a woodpecker, more mushrooms. I'm an avid Kawartha Highlands paddler. While most people are out in their canoes, I lug my kayak. It's very heavy, but it's worth it to get around. And I really got close to a deer, which was really cool. Jackson Park is one of my favorite places in Peterborough. I actually got married there. And then I just saw that they planted a ginkgo tree, and I was like, oh, this is for me. Some more osprey. I got very close to the nest here, as you can see, and either the mother or father osprey did not like that and swooped down at me. But I always think when I'm engaged with an animal, if I have it on video, it's worth it.
As long as he doesn't get it.
Yeah. So this is some from Silent Lake Provincial Park and Mark S. Burnham. I found a morel and I was over the moon. It was a very cool find. More mushrooms. This one was led by Rachel and Sue, the fabulous fungi outing. We got to see so many really cool mushrooms, especially the bear's head and the yellow coral, which were really neat. And then I went to Charleston Lake Provincial Park, to a lot of provincial parks. Some more morels. The barred owl was really cool find in Presqu'île Provincial Park. This was really exciting. Previous to this, I had never actually fed a nuthatch before. And then I was just showing Kathy, I went to Algonquin this past weekend, and they were so hungry that so many birds were swarming us even before we got our seed out, and some actually made it into my car. I had to shoo them out. Yeah.
Very hungry.
Yes. Some woodpeckers. And then, so my husband and I got married, and we put off our honeymoon because I started my own business called Sun School, so we were quite busy this year. But we did put off to do a anniversary honeymoon trip where we visited 12 different provincial parks over a span of 2 weeks. So we got to see a really cool coyote. A question I have to you guys, does anyone know what this, I'm actually asking, I don't know. I thought it might be an otter paw print, but I was looking it up and I couldn't really tell. It's this picture right here. So if anyone could give me some insight, I'd appreciate it. We went to, does anyone know?
Dead silence.
Send it to Don McLeod.
I will, yes. We went to Oxtongue River Ragged Falls, and if you're in the Algonquin area, I'd totally recommend it. It was very cool. We did our vow renewal here, which was gorgeous, at Killbear, and we did the crack hike in Killarney. And then we went to Lake St. Peter and did a difficult hike that was 2 kilometers. We did the crack with no problem, and then that 2-kilometer hike, we were dying. So I was I don't know what happened there. And then my husband's family is very lucky to have this nature area behind their house. So we get to see really cool wildlife like the buck and a few doe that come through. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Yes?
You had a picture of 2 young cedar waxwings.
Yeah.
And they have orange tips to the tails.
Mm-hmm.
Normally they're yellow.
Okay.
And apparently it's the berries they eat.
Oh.
And I read that the European honeysuckle berries tend to turn the
sorry.
I
was close. So you're saying this is orange.
They were eating certain.
That's really cool. And I took this picture on Dubes Trestle Bridge, which unfortunately the arson happened and it's closed. So it's great. It's fantastic. I'm excited. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing this weekend. Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Thank you.
That's all done with an iPhone?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.